Welcome to this video looking at different layouts in Premiere Pro. So there's a variety of different layouts that you can have in Premiere Pro. This is the one that I basically use at the moment. So let's just look why I do it this way. So you can see I've got my project window here. It's quite small. Effects. Now effects, the reason why effects is quite small here is because really all you have to do is just choose the effect and drag it onto the timeline, right? And then the effect controls you tend to want to do a bit more with. I've got a fairly small program monitor. Now, if you do vlogs and stuff and you want to basically import multiple clips and get the input and the outputs, and you probably have a source monitor as well. So that will put more complexity and more things into the mix. For me, what I tend to do is just upload a bunch of footage and I just edit everything directly in the timeline. Speaking of the timeline, when you load up Premiere Pro, and this is actually something that's happened quite recently, it loads it up pretty big, right? So depending on if you want to conserve space, you see if I do that up, it gets bigger. If I go down though, I can basically go all the way down to the very bottom, right? Um, what that means, of course, is that I can then reduce this size. Um, Now, the way that I edit, this may be different for you. I would basically edit a certain section of text. So, for instance, I do a cut here with my Control K, Control Shift K if you've got more than one audio channel. What it basically lets me do is I can just, it's easy to select. You want it to be it's easy to marquee select stuff. So basically that's why I have a little gap at the bottom there. So if it was a bit lower down, I could probably still do it. You have to basically do it where it's going to be, you don't misclick too much. So you need at least this amount of space. You can see I've probably got about double that, but it's about right. This is a pretty good setup, but I want to show you some other setups as well that I might use for different projects, right? So let's have a look what other ones we've got that I can show you. Vertical news is a different setup we've got here. So in this one, again, uh, this just lets you have the screen on the right hand side a bit bigger. It puts more stuff over here. You've got the toolbar out as well. Um, it's a different way you can do it. I put sound in here as well. With sound is quite a big box basically. So if you want to do a lot of stuff with sound, it might be advisable to have a bigger box here, right? Um, Essential graphics also could possibly go in this box. It's not one that I tend to use too much. The other workspace that we've got here, multi-layer video. Again, this is one I made. This is one basically like if you actually, it's a bit more in terms of if you've got like a bunch of layers, right? Then you're going to want the timeline to be quite big. Um, so for instance, in this situation, this would not be small like that. So you can see how much space we can get like with the timeline, right? Um, and this would be like a double thing. So you could do much more like granular controls and stuff like this. Um, and obviously you've got access for more layers. Um, and again, I probably would do the same sort of thing with the effect controls and the effects in the other one. Um, Even though I didn't do it, but that really would be there. Um, the source monitor, tend to just not use that at all, really. But some people do use that. I mean, with tools, like basically in my proper workspace, we go back to the one I actually use. I mean, I would use these other ones. There are some interesting things as well to mention, like effect controls is something that you really might want to edit quite a bit, right? So with regards to effect controls, um, uh, let's just uh, let's just put this back to my standard here. So with regards to effect controls, you have to also look at the orientation of the different panels here, right? So basically, everything is kind of um, you could say that effect controls is more of a like a horizontal one. So potentially, like you could put effect controls in here as well. Um, what this would do is you can still scroll through the text. You can almost say that it's like a second timeline. Um, and this is really the only space. Like, if you want to have a lot of like width to the effect controls, it would be maybe beneficial to do that. Um, because these two are not necessarily that important, you could say do something like this. So this would give you a lot more control over the timeline, right? Um, and you could sort of you could switch between the two. So there's different ways to edit. It really depends on what your content is. Um, Often, by the way, you can do it like this as well. If you want the video to be bigger and you're not really doing much with the sound, you could also do something like that. And then in that case, I would do that. Sometimes when you do scroll down, though, it does do that sort of thing. So what you have to do in that case, you'd have to start to like really think about how we're going to move this down a bit, right? And you'd have to sort of do something like that. Because the way that this works, um, um, this is really only dependent on the very uppermost layer. So that would be, for instance, if I wanted to resize it like that, and I'll be able to do stuff like that. I did put tools in here. Obviously, I could have it on the side, but really, if you know the shortcuts, all these have got shortcuts. So it's almost not necessarily that useful to have it. It depends what you're doing, really, with your editing. But yeah, so they're just like a few different like approaches that you could have to different workspace layouts. So thanks for watching.